Tuesday, sunny and 27. Mostly sunny on Wednesday, 29. Right now, 17 degrees. More news as it happens on 5AA.
Nutrog Biological Fertilisers bring soil back to life at good hardware stores. Nutrog.com.au. This is 5AA Weekends.
Michael Keelan's Weekend. It's 25 minutes to 8. 8223 0000 is our number if you've got any questions for Michael Keelan or maybe for our next guest.
Absolutely, yes. The number 8223 0000. Dr. Huey Stroh, good morning to you.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How's the Nutrog factory pumping out beautiful organic material for autumn?
We are flat out at the moment. That hooflung has just gone it's gone off like hot cross buns, literally. It's just everywhere once. It's we're pretty busy, which is great. It's a great thing to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's always better to be busy than to be quiet, I guess. Yep.
Now, we're talking about I suppose earthworms is the topic, but what fascinates me about earthworms is that, one, you haven't got them, and you've sort of been trying all the tricks of the trade, the organics, the mulching, all that, and the next year, there they are.
Yep, well, they're pretty amazing.
Tell us about them.
Well, I guess, the thing is that, I always talk about microbes and nobody can see the damn thing. So I figured today we should talk about something people can actually see for a change, guys. So I guess, earthworms that are devoid of, soils that are devoid of earthworms are really, really so much poorer in many, many ways. Like there's no structurally they're not as good. Water uptake, nutrient uptake, even air penetration to the roots is nowhere near as good. And, there's a great quote by Darwin, if I can read it out. It may be doubted whether there's any other animal which has played as an important part in human history of the world as the lowly organised creatures. So basically Darwin recognised, 150 years ago, the importance of earthworms. I mean, this is probably before we knew about microbes, which are obviously much more important. But so it's been known for a long, long time. So earthworms, what they do is really they're the things that can get that organic matter deep into the ground. Now, we put organic matter down. We can wait for it to leach in. We can dig it in to some degree. But the real issue is that you can't really dig organic matter in around the roots very easily. So this is where your earthworms are really great because they can pull that material down. So people would have seen if they pick up old bricks or they pick up an old piece of wood that's been laying on the ground for a few years, you see all those tunnels and those sort of tracks. A lot of them are made by earthworms. So there's different types of earthworms. So some move horizontally through the soil profile, and then others move vertically. So the ones that do the majority of pulling things down into the soil are obviously the ones that move vertically. So they're one of the few mechanisms which you can get bulk transfer of nutrients from the upper part of the soil to the lower part of the soil. So, what earthworms essentially do is they eat organic matter together with some soil particles. Then what they do, the first thing they do is they actually secrete calcium back into the soil because they like to get rid of calcium.
Straight through them, doesn't it?
Yeah, they just secrete it out of the skin. And then what basically happens is the soil together with the organic part sits in a gizzard, and in there it's slowly ground up. And as it moves through the earthworm's digestive system, it pulls out the nutrients and it poops out those worm castings that everybody wants.
Sure.
So, basically the sort of microbes you find in earthworms are very similar to the ones that you get in the soil because they're basically eating the soil and they're using those soil microbes to help break down that organic matter. But, unlike microbes, earthworms can move bulk material. The other thing, of course, what they do is they secrete that slime. So that slime is really, really good because a lot of bacteria and fungi can live in that and use it as a food source. So again, it's another really essential element. And not only do they enrich your soil with worm castings, move your soil, aerate your soil, but they also encourage microbes and fungi. And now one of the reasons why you probably don't see earthworms one year and the next, it's got to do with I guess moisture. They love moisture, but also potentially on the fertilising treatment that you've used.
Okay.
So if you're using a lot of chemical fertilisers, that tends not to be an environment that earthworms thrive in. It doesn't necessarily damage them, but it doesn't encourage them either. So having things like compost, other organic matter, mulches, as that breaks down, it will encourage the earthworms. And then once the eggs hatch, you'll get a proliferation or an explosion. So one year you'll see very little, and the next year you'll see hundreds of them. That's basically because they multiply in mass when the conditions are perfect for them.
Now we're talking earthworms. We're not talking compost worms, are we?
No, so compost worms are slightly different. They're what we call the tiger worms because they've got those stripes in it. Yeah. But they're all essential, and they do a very, very similar job, except tiger worms don't actually live in the soil.
No.
They obviously live in the compost. Having said that, in Australia there's about 1,000 different species of earthworms.
That's right.
So, I don't know if you've seen those ones in Gippsland. They've got some that are up to 3 metres long.
No.
They have massive earthworms in Gippsland.
That'd be a bit scary. You'd think it'd be a snake, wouldn't it?
Yeah, you would. Yeah. And there's others that in New South Wales that have some that are as thick as a garden hose.
Oh.
And 1.5 metres long. So, those guys can really move some soil. So, earthworms come in all shapes and
people
sizes.
rent them out.
Oh,
Because like the lovely lady I was talking to just a while ago, her lawn's like concrete,
yeah, I heard that on the way in, and certainly, that's one of the biggest issues. I have a English box as well. I also have that issue with some of the leaves dying back, and I think it has to do with the amount of water you can get to them and burnt from sun. And when you replant them, I guess dig that hole, like you said, put that composted material in, but also you need to cut around. You need to cut back some of the original plants that are there.
Yes, the roots.
And also the greenery, because they'll actually crowd the new plant in, and the new plant will never truly fill in that space properly if you don't do that. But look, if you can get earthworms in there, your boxes would be much, much happier, certainly.
And how can we, if we haven't got earthworms, how can we start? What's the obvious thing? You're going to tell us about products, etc.
Yep.
But how long will they take to gather, and where do they come from?
Well, there's always a few earthworms in the ground anyway. Even in as a general rule, there should be some earthworms in the ground. But certainly, if you get a good organic mulch down, or you use your own compost, that's a great way to start. Get that into the soil, and also keep the moisture up. Earthworms obviously love moisture. Again, if you got a good moisture level in your soil and you've mulched it, then you really don't have to worry about it, because the mulch will keep it in there. The earthworms will come up and they'll grab that material. So there's always going to be a few, and so the eggs in the soil will hatch over time, and hopefully that'll encourage them. So obviously, we like to think that using a organic fertilising program will help in that process. So something like a Seamungus or a Rapid Raiser or that type of thing is obviously an ideal organic way to fertilise, because we all look at things like the NPK at the back of the packet, and we go, oh, look, this has got 7% nitrogen, 7 this, 10 of that.
Yes.
But in the end, those types of fertilisers aren't really going to put any organic matter in the soil, so you're not encouraging those earthworms. So chemicals do the job that they do, but they don't have the additional benefits.
Now you did come bearing gifts this morning. What have
I
you
did,
got
yeah.
for
Well,
us?
we brought in some Rapid Raiser and some Go-Go juice for people to
Just
use.
perfect for worm culture.
Perfect for worms, or even for your compost heap. If you want to, kick your compost heap along a little bit, now's a good time to do that.
2 questions I was going to ask you. How long do you reckon worms have been around?
They're a pretty ancient form of life, so they've been around for hundreds of millions of years. Yeah,
Incredible, isn't it?
yeah, quite incredible. And no, you can't chop them in half and get both ends to live.
No.
Only one end lives.
And the other thing, the ultimate worm, of course, did you see that movie called June, which they are reshooting?
Oh yes.
Yeah, with the big worms.
with the big sandworms.
Sandworms.
Well, being a bit of
what
a-
is the biggest worm?
Well, I think the ones in Gippsland are the
They
biggest
are the
ones.
biggest.
Yeah. They're massive, and I think
I've never seen one.
I think they can vibrate the ground, and then they.
That's
they
what
come-
the
they come-
June
Yeah,
worms do.
yeah.
In
I think
that movie.
brings them to the surface. I'm not a worm expert when it comes to Gippsland worms. You may have to get someone in from one of the universities, but yeah, they're massive. They're like they look like snakes, but they're actually earthworms.
Oh,
So
imagine digging in the garden.
All of a sudden, a 3-metre worm's in your garden. But you're right, because Hollywood always shows you that you can cut a worm in half and it just regenerates and regrows.
now, there's that little. If you look at a worm, and they got that ring.
Yeah.
If you chop behind that ring, then the head end will survive. but the tail end always dies.
Right.
So, this idea.
So that's where they mate, don't they?
That's right, yeah.
That's the all-important.
I saw another movie about a human centipede. I don't think they can do that either. That's just Hollywood, I think. Don't watch that movie,
That's a
Michael.
very, very bad movie.
It's a very bad movie.
Yui, thanks for coming in.
No problems, guys.
Terrific.
7:45, Dr. Yui from Nutrog, and of course you can find out more at nutrog.com.au. Shoot Yui an email if you've got any questions, and of course we'll give away those great prizes. Thanks to Nutrog, available at all good hardware and garden stores. We've got the Go-Go Juice and the Rapid Razor. All you got to do is call, email, or send us an email, Facebook message.
Taste Henschke's most sought after and collectible